hosted by the Department of English aided Madras Christian College. We are especially privileged to have with us virtually our keynote speaker, Dr. Greg Emery from the University of AKRON, USA. And despite the time zone difference, Dr. Greg Emery has graciously joined us live this morning, and we are deeply grateful for his presence and participation. We are honored to have on stage today Dr. B. Wilson, Principal and Secretary, Madras Christian College, Dr. S. Franklin Daniel, Head of the Department of English Aided and the convener of ICOH25, and Dr. V. Rajagopalan, former Head, Department of English Aided, Madras Christian College, and Professor C. Monson Daniel, President, English Literary Forum. To officially commence this gathering and extend our collective greeting, I now invite Dr. S. Franklin Daniel, Head of the Department of English and the convener of the International Conference, to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning. Honorable member of the dais, our beloved Principal Dr. Paul Wilson, our adored former Head of the Department, Dr. V. Rajagopalan, our much cherished ELF President, Professor Monson Daniel, most importantly, Dr. Greg Emery, Senior Lecturer, University of Akron, Ohio, United States of America, our keynote speaker who joins us virtually, respected dignitaries online, esteemed faculty members, distinguished guests, dear scholars and student friends of the department, and all the passionate lovers of literature, we welcome you this morning. It gives me immense pleasure to warmly welcome you all to the two-day International Conference on Hermeneutics in Action, Bridging Traditions and Innovations. This conference is the result of months of meticulous planning and deep reflection. As a department, we were not content with the status quo, and from that restlessness was born the first seeds of this academic endeavor. A key moment in this journey was on March 5th, 2025, when the Department of English, in collaboration with the Dean of International Programs, Dr. Simon Rufus, had the privilege of hosting Dr. Greg on a beautiful NCC campus for a lecture titled A Talk on Heidegger's Typewriter. That intellectually invigorating session became the spark that led the way forward. Since then, a team of committed research scholars, Ms. Harika, if you're there, please come forward. Alan, Ms. Karen, Ms. Kaplan, Ms. Magdalene, Ms. Arya, and Ms. Shruti Kristen, alongside the faculty of the English department, worked sincerely with Dr. Greg at hand to bring this grand vision to fruition. We are truly blessed to have Dr. Wilson, our visionary president, who supported and encouraged us at every step. His pioneering initiative, the MCC MRF Innovation Park, stands as a shining example of creative foresight and commitment to intellectual growth. We are equally grateful to our dear Bursa, whose prompt support with budgetary approvals made the logistics of this event possible. In an age marked by instant reactions and fragmented attention spans, hermeneutics invites us to slow down. It teaches us that meaning is not always obvious, that truth emerges in conversation, and that understanding is a process of becoming. Literature is not a closed book. It's a living, breathing dialogue across time between the author, the text, and the reader. As Hans-Georg Gadamer reminds us, I quote, "Being that can be understood is language," unquote. Let us keep listening. Let us keep interpreting. Let us keep reading and being read. With this spirit, I welcome every one of you, especially our online participants, to the inaugural session of ICOH 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As a mark of honor and respect, may I request Dr. Franklin Daniel to felicitate our Principal and Secretary, Dr. B. Wilson. sir. We are deeply honored to have with us this morning Dr. P. Wilson, Principal and Secretary, Madras Christian College, a steadfast supporter of academic and intellectual engagement within and beyond the institution. His vision and encouragement continue to inspire endeavors like this international conference. It is now my privilege to invite Dr. P. Wilson to deliver the inaugural address.
The keynote speaker of the day, Dr. EMERY, the head of the Department of English, Dr. Franklin Daniel, the former head of the Department of English, Dr. V. Rajagopalan, Professor Martin Daniel, and my dear faculty members, and the students of the Department of English. A very good morning to all of you. I think this is the first time I'm trying to take part in an inaugural function of the department. I think we know that I've stopped doing it because of lack of time. But when Dr. Franklin Daniel invited me, I couldn't say no. And I'm really privileged to be a part of this particular topic. So as a keynote, it is a part of passing on my reflections on your own area where you think about hermeneutics. I was just asking Professor Martin to give me an overview of what you're trying to bring out as part of this conference. And he was giving me some kind of an insight on hermeneutics and how we can reimagine traditions and innovations. These are two key words that I would go through while looking at your presentation and a summary of this particular conference. We keep evolving traditions, we keep innovating. And MCC is a context where you have a lot of traditions, maybe through oral traditions I would say, which keep every day keeps evolving. At the same time, the context in the present 21st scenario is looking at the other aspect of innovation. I don't know how you're going to reimagine the hermeneutics, because when I ask about hermeneutics, it looks like a phenomenology that we normally talk about in the philosophy. It's a subjective opinions that we need to emerge, what we bring out. And the colonized understanding that we received from our forefathers is that unless objectivity is validated, then the truth cannot be published. So the idea of objectivity, where it works for maybe UK, where it works for US, probably they do a framework, and finally we say we use the same framework and we try to decode the truth. It might not work in the new context. So looking at the way you're trying to think about the phenomenological understanding of subjective opinions that emerge while reading a text and interpreting it, it looks so beautiful that you try to get importance for opinions of people. And at the same time, the opinions have to be very controlled. On one side, I see traditions, on the other side, I see relations. I think the hermeneutics that you probably, I don't know whether you apply the regular frameworks to understand hermeneutics, or you want to really interpret for your own, the lived experiences, we call this lived experiences. What I see is the present day context. Sometimes we try to masquerade under traditions, impeding innovations. I think there's only one message that I would like to raise before you. We try to masquerade under traditions, impeding innovations. So if you try to find a conflict, I would say we need to keep decoding traditions. Maybe you can try to decode tradition, the exercise of the English department. We take out the traditions. Sometimes the traditions are really legends, constructed by our own people in a very fun way. So we don't know where is the fun, where is the tradition, where is the legend. We don't decode it. So try to understand, try to exclude, weed out the legends. Try to find out value as a keyword to authentically curate the traditions. When we say traditions, traditions are value-based. When I kept reading the Life and Legacy book, and it's kind of an interpretation of it, I keep reading, reading between lines to see how those traditions were originated by the Scots, maybe in the Georgetown. Many of the traditions were having some values embedded on it. So they wanted to have some objectives in order to bring in the tradition, so that they wanted I hope you understand that when Miller was there at Georgetown, it was very difficult for bringing people together from different hierarchical social structures. So, even when Anderson was here in the school, he had the same difficulties. There were a lot of strikes, protests by people, and they couldn't work with the Indian scenario. The same was the case when Ziegenbalg came to India. He could not work in Korea. He had difficulty, but he designed the whole church like a cross. And he never wanted to touch the social structure of India. And he made people sit according to their hierarchy. And he wanted to educate them. And throughout the education, finally the uniformity or normalization or hierarchies collapsed, and finally people started accepting each other. The same way, Miller worked in a very, very different way. If you look at the way he innovated, we had a kind of traditions inherited. We had hierarchy as part of it. But when Miller wanted to experiment the mission here in India, he said education is a re-evangelical. It's not about dumping gospel onto people. Rather, it is preparing the minds to know, exercising the minds to get to know about the truth. And he worked with the higher hierarchy, people in the hierarchical structure at the top. He worked separately through a hostel. For 10 years he worked with them, educated them to have empathy towards people of other hierarchical structures. And the next 10 years he worked with the other set of people of lower hierarchical structure. And when he went back to Scotland, he united all of them together. And this is how we celebrated the halls of residence. This is my interpretation, you can call it as my hermeneutics. When you get into the hall, people used to always talk about this. When I was listening to this, I was amazed to look at how Miller, they never knew that where it originated. Miller created this uniformity, the kind of a structure where you don't have any hierarchical positions, where everyone sat together, stayed together, lived together for the sake of education. Now we are all enjoying this, not knowing how it is originated, decoded. Maybe I decoded it this way. When you read through the Life and Legacy book, you can try to understand how the regular traditions which did not have values were decoded by our Scottish missionaries and innovated in such a way that we all sit together in Anderson Hall now without thinking about those structures, and we are receiving education uniformly. I think this is how we need to use, I think, a beautiful idea of independent opinions. When I heard about this phenomenology from the Department of Philosophy to one of the researchers of musicology, I was just going through it. I was having this idea of objectivity always. In sciences, we always look at objectivity because it's all about evidence-based research. Here in English literature or philosophy or any social sciences, from every country to country, the truth probably differs. Sometimes the variation of truth we can see. We cannot say objectivity. It all depends on the cultural structures, the socio-cultural variations. I think in that particular context, I think we didn't understand each other, that phenomenology or maybe kind of reimagination of hermeneutics works. So let us try to blend the tradition and innovation in such a way that we would not impede innovations in education too. And when I look at the way we try to think about innovations now in the whole world, if you see, we are in the 39th position in the Global Innovation Index. India, among the 132 countries in the world, India is now positioned at 39. This happened over 7 to 8 years. That means every year, the order of 5, we scale up the ladder. Is it because of the policy? You want to think, is it because of the policies that we have? Or is it because of the innate tendency to innovate? I don't know. I would ask my innate tendency to innovate Indians. Otherwise, it is not so easy to promote the culture of innovation in the whole India. Even the government makes efforts to bring out schemes, things will not work out. But looking at the way we are all progressing, we might touch the first 10, maybe in 5 years from now, if the history is linear, I don't know. The whole process is linear. Looking at the way from 7 years we have grown every year, I calculated every year of the order of 5 we scaled up the ladder. Now, going up the ladder and all the countries are down. We are somewhere in the 39th position, starting from 80th position in 7 years. Look at that now. 2018, where were we now? Now where are we now? So looking at the way the country is growing, I think awareness on blending these two are very important. Let us weed out value lesson traditions, try to understand why our forefathers have brought traditions to discipline us. I will quote one particular verse of the Bible and then call it a day. When Jesus Christ was dialoguing with Pharisees and scribes, they were accusing Jesus Christ, saying that your disciples are not trying to wash their hands before eating. I remember I lived in Israel for about 1.5 years for my postdoctoral experience research. So I visited a rabbi's house. It was so wonderful to see the Old Testament days. A rabbi would sit on the other end of the table, and his children would sit on the side, and we as visitors would sit at the other end of the table. And before that, we have to go through the whole ceremonial phase of washing hands. Then I recall the whole thing from the Bible, how people gave importance to washing hands. Washing your hands is hygienic, that's all. But it has become this tradition and ceremony that it took a lot of time for us to come to the table. We were so hungry. And our hands were very good. But they purified it further with all those elements of traditions, and finally when we sit on the table, we were so frustrated, we were so tired. It was a symbolic thing that was presented to people that they had to wash their hands. Maybe it probably, if you do a kind of hermeneutics, maybe the whole inner unity that probably symbolized. But over the period, Jesus Christ said, by traditions, you can put the word of God into no effect. Beautiful phrase that you can read in the scriptures, it's not a decode. By traditions, you can put the word of God into no effect. That means the truth is at stake sometimes. So when you want to innovate, if you want to find the truth, you have to evolve. Every day you have to evolve. Any new learnings that you get, you have to imbibe, you have to adopt and adapt. I think this is what is very important when it comes to blending innovation and tradition. And I'm sure that the Department of English is known for innovations, because for decades I've heard about the Department of English bringing on a lot of innovations. One thing is now we have to understand how to create value out of it for creating livelihood. The last point that I want to make is languages, be it Tamil or be it English or any other languages, survive in the world only because of the patronage. If you think about Tamil, we had Pullavargal, right? We had Pullavargal, we had kings. They offered patronage. Vedanam Sastri was asked to write a poem on against his own faith, and he refused to do so. And kings was all patronage. Then he had to be in poverty. You remember those days, the palace probably served as an important place offering patronage for those literature which were evolving over there. Now, let me float this idea before you. If you want to give offer patronage to a language, you create livelihood out of that. Livelihood out of language. If you do this, I see people completing their master's degree in literature. Sometimes they do not get into domain-specific placements. And I see that more and more we work with placements as we find that students are interested in getting into domain-specific. Now, looking at the way English is evolving, content development becomes a beautiful area that we can try to explore various aspects of developing content, where it's not about the language, it is about organizing the idea. I think idea matters. If you think about ideas, every day we bring out new ideas, I think it's all monetizable that can create livelihood for all of you. You don't have to depend on the stereotypical placements that we go through. You can create your own livelihood for your own, and it's like you convert your passion into profession. So I wish the department all the best in all your areas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that thought-provoking and inspiring inaugural address. Your words today beautifully remind us of the need to blend and to hold delicate balance between preserving the richness of our traditions by decoding them and embracing the promise of innovation. In an age which change is constant, and your unwavering support, which continue and leading us with such clarity and purpose. Moving forward, we are delighted to have with us a much revered academician and a valuable part of the legacy of the Department of English, Madras Christian College, Dr. V. Rajagopalan, who is also the former head of the department. May I now invite a Professor Monson Daniel to introduce our guest of honor.
Respected dignitaries on the dais and online, the keynote speaker, Dr. EMERY from the University of AKRON, Ohio, the guest of honor, our former head of the department, Dr. B. Rajagopalan, our beloved principal and secretary, Dr. P. Wilson, our visionary head of the department, Dr. Franklin Daniel, my beloved professors and colleagues, delegates from far and near, our dynamic research scholars, and my student friends. I thank Almighty God for His abundant blessings upon us on this day. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to the august gathering our guest of honor for the day, our beloved Dr. B. Rajagopalan. Sir was the head of the department when I was admitted into the BA English program, and Sir was also the head when I was given the very first employment opportunity of my life right here in this department in June 2006. I was, in Sir's leadership, the recipient of the unique MCC experience, where one day I was completing my PG degree course, and the next day I found myself being asked by Rajagopalan Sir as to whether I would like to teach as a professor in the department. I can't measure my joy. It was that initial spark that Rajagopalan Sir ignited in me that has transformed my desire into loyalty, thereby forging my destiny in this college. Dr. Rajagopalan was a thoroughbred MCCN, as they say, who has taught and inspired student generations over the course of 37 years in this college alone. During his tenure, Dr. Rajagopalan has been a phenomenal teacher who never compromised on values, and in doing so has shaped the lives of myriad students. His scholasticism, which has remained staggering and unmatched in its vastness, had earned him the nickname in our student days as a walking encyclopedia. Whether it was Immanuel Kant or Nietzsche, Plato or Foucault, Kierkegaard or Sartre, Cartesian meditations or Heideggerian phenomenology, when he spoke, we knew that we were in a whirlwind of worldly and otherworldly wisdom and knowledge. He is a lover of books, and his home library is something that several academic institutions of the planet would yearn to possess. It is this greatness of academic excellence that spilled onto our department and germinated innovative courses like women's studies, which were novel and relevant at those times. His contribution extended on to the college when he took on the responsibility of being the very first ICOH coordinator of the college and got us the A++ NAC accreditation. He is presently the Dean of SSM College of Arts and Science and features an orientation and refresher courses of the University of Madras. His thirst for teaching continues, and after 53 years of teaching experience, he shows absolutely no sign of slowing down. There are generations of research scholars who owe credit to this great man. Apart from his academic fervor, he is a great conversationalist and a sports enthusiast. He was a college staff team captain, a keen cricketer, top order batsman, and a great bowler. We are truly honored, sir, for having you with us on this special occasion, and we welcome you with all our heart. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I request Professor Monson Daniel, President of the English Literary Forum, to kindly felicitate Dr. B. Rajagopalan. Thank you, sir. It is such an honor to have Dr. B. Rajagopalan sir amidst us today, and it's that time where I take the privilege of inviting him to offer his special greeting and reflections. So please.
Dr. Wilson, the Principal of the College, Dr. Franklin, Dr. Monson Daniel, Dr. Greg Emery, faculty, students, online guests, and other listeners. I am really overwhelmed by what has been happening for the past 20-25 minutes. I don't know how many of you would have read that brilliant essay by Robert Lind. The title of the essay is The Unexpected. I thought Dr. Franklin invited me to this conference. I never knew that he was going to honor me this way. Thank you, Dr. Franklin, for this honor. And I also want to thank our principal, Dr. Wilson. I know normally he doesn't attend such programs, but this is also a great honor to us, so thank you very much. The unexpected is always sweeter, like unheard melodies. And I also want to thank Monsing. Poets speak lies, I'm told. Sometimes professors also do speak lies. Thank you, Monsing. Actually, Dr. Wilson, though he said he wanted Monsing to initiate him into hermeneutics, so much he has said that I could start from where he left. Some of the words he used, the great Jenny uses them. Now anyway, let me say a few things about our department, our college. Every time I step in on this campus, I feel very happy. If I have an identity today, it's only because of MCC. I've been employed elsewhere. If I'm introduced elsewhere, people will only say formerly head of Department of English and now whatever it is. Your identity is always your alma mater. And my identity has always been Madras Christian College, the great professors. I tell you, students, I joined in 1972 with the Department of English after 5 years of study. Somewhere in 78 or 79, I asked one of my students, why do you want to study literature? He said, sir, I'll get a lot of dowry, he said. What happens if you are a lecturer in the Department of English? Sir, they would give their daughters to me, he said. And there was a time everybody was proud that you are a student of Madras Christian College, and prouder if you are a faculty. Now coming to, I also want to congratulate Professor Wilson for today's newspaper report. I think all of you have read how one of your internal assessments you can devote to what they call ideation. Now that is the epitome of Madras Christian College. Innovation. I've been watching for the past 4 or 5 years since Dr. Wilson took over this particular park which is established is one example of what innovation Professor Wilson could do. Thank you very much, sir. And this internal assessment thing is a very great thing, and students make good use of that. Professor Wilson also talked of, he used the word reimagine, decode, etc. I tell you, hermeneutics deals with the problem of interpretation. There is an admirable book by George Steiner. The title of the book is After Babel. It's all about translation. The essence of that book is this. You say you speak in your mother tongue. He says that is also translation. All communication within and between languages, George Steiner says, is translation. That's a beautiful statement, and you know, language is very complex. Understanding is also complex. Translation is interpretation. Translation is understanding. And particularly, now, if I may spend a few minutes on literary hermeneutics, from there probably go on to biblical hermeneutics, you will see the difference. And I'll also give you a small anecdote which happened in 1989 when I attended a refresher program in Hyderabad. It was a 28-day program. Mind you, we are all professors, about 40 of us. You must know in every program there will be latecomers. And one of our classes was held by Dr. Timalesh, wonderful grammar teacher. And this professor, there was a small group of people who always came late to the class, and this was Dr. Timalesh's second class. And this gentleman walked in. Dr. Timalesh simply said, "What's your name?" He said, "Bennett Shaw." He went and sat. After some time, another gentleman came in. Dr. Timalesh asked him, "What's your name?" "Don't tell me you are Shakespeare." Now everybody laughed. Now mind you, what happened there? The first person who came in, his name really was Bennett Shaw. Dr. Timalesh thought that he was joking. Somewhere, communication was lost. We are always in the midst of understanding. We are always in the midst of interpreting. Now, two words I have taken from Professor Wilson. He made a distinction between subject and object. Mind you, this is the essence of Jenner's essay, Structuralism and Literary Criticism, where he says a literary work of art is not objective, it's always subjective. Now, there is always this interaction between two subjects, you as the reader and what you have there. So that was a very valid point which I thought, and this is available in David Rogers' second volume, Modern Literary Criticism. It's a wonderful book, you can draw from there. Now if a literary work is a subject, what about a religious work? What about, let's say, Bible? Now, imagine if you knew the original language in which it was written. Partly, I'm told, Aramaic, then Hebrew, then Greek, then comes English via Latin. Now, so many processes of translations have taken place. Ultimately, you have a text. So, the hermeneutic critic says, you have to enter the spirit of the author. You have to enter the spirit of the times in which they were produced to understand your proper text. You know, about 25 years ago, I attended a conference, an international conference on translation at Germany. One of the speakers, such a brilliant speaker, he said, he quoted that famous line from St. Luke, which says it's difficult for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle. But what he says, there was some problem of misunderstanding of that thread. It is not camel, he said. It is a sort of a bigger thread which cannot enter into the eye of the needle. Now, it was amazing for, he was an advocate, but very well versed in Tamil and English. Now, I was also happy when Professor Wilson said that languages are important. Tamil language is also important. You know, it gives an opportunity for jobs. Millions of people are today living their lives because of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is such an open text. Now, 2 minutes I take. I want you to listen This is one of the finest books by one Zizek, and the title of the book is The Sublime Object of Ideology. Nobody has compared, let me tell you, nobody has compared Jane Austen. I don't know how many of you have read Jane Austen. I still remember my professor, the late Professor Dorai, whenever he used to teach Jane Austen, he used to tell, there is no synonym in Jane Austen. There is no synonym in Jane Austen. Probably this was in 1969 when I was in the second year, he said this. We didn't understand what he meant by that statement. Later on only we understood. And here is this famous political philosopher comparing Jane Austen to Zizek. I'm sorry, Jane Austen to Hegel. Look at this. Austen, Jane Austen, perhaps the only counterpart to Hegel in literature. It's a big statement. Unless you knew your Hegel, you will not know what a fine comparison that he makes. And he says, Pride and Prejudice is the literary phenomenology of spirit. That's a great book by Hegel. Phenomenology of, if you have been carefully listening to Dr. Wilson, he also used the word phenomenology. Phenomenology also has something to do with understanding a text, interpreting a text, hermeneutics. Very big names are there. I don't want to give all those names to you. Now listen here. He makes a reference to Darcy and Elizabeth. He says there is so much of miscommunication between them. Ultimately, initially, each refuses the other, but later on they do marry. So I don't want to go into this. If you can buy this book and read, you will understand so much about interpretation, so much about one of our professors, one Chalapan, he didn't teach here. He said, and the King Lear, entire King Lear is miscommunication. Nothing comes out of nothing. He took about 40 minutes to explain nothing comes of nothing. He also said, taking this too much ago about nothing, during Shakespearean times, nothing was pronounced as noting. There, much ago about nothing, you should read nothing as noting. But in King Lear, you should read as nothing. So one can go on and on like this, but we have no time. Once again, thank you very much. Let me tell you, you are one of the most fortunate boys and girls to be studying in this college. Make good use of your stay. Thank you very much once again, Dr. Franklin, Professor Wilson, and entire faculty of the English department. Good day to all of you.
Thank you, sir, for your illuminating address that opened up a rich field of thought around the nature of language, interpretation, and understanding. Your reflections remind us that language is never neutral and that translation is not merely about words, but about interpretation and about entering into the spirit of the text, the mind of an author. As you pointed out, we are always caught in the act of understanding and of navigating the space between the subject and object, the meaning and the structure, the reader and the writer. And your evocative examples help us see that texts are not static, but they are very much alive, with the meaning waiting to be re-understood in every act of reading. Thank you once again, sir, for setting the tone with such philosophical depth and literary sensitive. It's always pure joy and encouragement to listen to you, sir. Thank you so much. It is now the time to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker who has joined us live from the United States of America. I invite Dr. S. Samuel Rufus, co-convener of ICOH25, to introduce Dr. Greg Emery.
Very good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce the second chief guest of the day. The first chief guest had us all enthralled, and I'm sure we'll take home a lot of enriching takeaways. I was keenly taking notes from beginning till end, and he was my HO. And it's so delightful to have him, Dr. Rajagopalan, here with us. I remember in the year 2004 when we had one of the third world conferences where we had Kaori Mori from Shiboro Institute of Technology, Japan, with us as the keynote speaker. And then 2012 we had another international conference. Dr. Franklin was the organizing secretary then. Then we had a host of conferences. Dr. Dwight Atkinson was there. Dr. Rajagopalan was an eminent speaker, and he was a scholar in residence also. Similarly, today we have Dr. Greg Emery, who was a scholar in residence in our college. This was an initiative pioneered by our principal. He said, why not we invite speakers from elsewhere to be scholars in residence or professors in residence. They'll be spending a week or two or even a month. We will subsidize or we will fully grant them exemption from all the money in the world, but let them come and engage with our students. Dr. Greg Emery is one such amazing academic personality who was with us from 3rd till 5th, 6th March 2025, as Dr. Franklin said, and he engaged various departments. He was engaging with the journalism department, English SFS, English aided communication department, thanks to the philosophy department, Dr. Sunita, for introducing Greg to us in the first place. So we hosted in the international office, we hosted him. And so we thank our principal for coming up with this wonderful scholar in residence program. And last year, 4 such scholars in residence were here in campus. This year we expect more. So on that note, I thank Dr. Greg Emery, who is with us online today from the United States of America. Dr. Franklin wished that he come here directly, but because of lack of funding, he is not able to come. But he was gracious enough to be with us online today. And he's a distinguished American academic and higher education leader with over 40 years of experience, 30 of which have been devoted to international higher education. He has forged strategic partnerships with nearly 20 international universities and has been deeply involved with organizations such as the Fulbright Association of the United States and the DAD, German Academic Exchange Service, underscoring his commitment to global academic collaboration. Throughout his career, Emery has received numerous awards and honors, including an honorary PhD in humanities at Ohio University, where he served 26 years from 1983 to 2019 as a faculty member and executive director of international outreach and development, as well as in various other academic roles. Dr. Emery was instrumental in advancing global learning initiatives and leadership training. He currently serves as a senior lecturer in critical thinking and techno-philosophy at the University of AKRON and just completed a semester as a visiting professor in Thailand. He has published numerous articles and case studies and also authored books, including The Black Humor of Melancholy, Existential Alchemy. Throughout his extensive teaching and research, Greg continues to inspire critical inquiry, ethical engagement, international collaboration, and philosophic wonder across diverse academic disciplines. On this note, it's my pleasure on behalf of the Department of English, AIDED, to welcome Dr. Greg Emery over to him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I request the on-stage dignitaries to please occupy the seats of the dais to have the keynote address. We are now honored to receive the keynote address from Dr. Greg Emery. I need to mention that despite the huge time difference, it was really kind and considerate of him to join us live to deliver the keynote address. Dr. Greg Emery, over to you. The virtual stage is yours.
Let me start with a few prepared remarks, and then I will speak a little more freely and get to my presentation. So let me start with my prepared remarks. It is both an honor and a joy to be with you today at Madras Christian College for a two-day international conference on hermeneutics in action, bridging traditions and innovations. At the outset, I extend my sincere thanks to Madras Christian College for the kind invitation and warm welcome. I'm deeply grateful to Dr. Franklin Daniel, Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of English, Dr. Samuel Rufus, Associate Professor of English and Dean of the International Programs, Dr. Kumari Sunita, Assistant Professor of the Department of Philosophy, and Mr. Alan Caldwell of the Technical and Sessions Committee of this conference. Thank you for the gracious hospitality, tireless coordination, and unwavering commitment to fostering dialogue across disciplines, traditions, and generations. When I had the pleasure of visiting Madras Christian College this past March, I was deeply impressed by the atmosphere of intellectual vitality on campus. The faculty and students alike reflect a rare combination of academic rigor, human warmth, and curiosity of spirit. It is clear that this is a college devoted to not only excellence in scholarship, but to the education of the whole person, mind, heart, and character. To return now in this context and to share in conversation with such a thoughtful and engaged academic community is a privilege I hold with sincere appreciation. This conference could not be more timely as we find ourselves in the midst of rapid and far-reaching transformation driven in large by the rise of generative AI. The work of interpretation, reflection, and ethical discernment has become more urgent than ever, in higher education especially, we're being asked to rethink not only how we teach, but why and to what ends. The theme of this gathering, Hermeneutics in Action, Bridging Traditions and Innovations, offers a powerful and necessary framework for addressing these challenges. It invites us to draw from the deep wealth of intellectual tradition while also equipping ourselves to engage with the new, the disruptive, and the uncertain. In this way, we do not merely respond to technological change, we interpret it, shape it, and humanize it as it shapes us. All right, that gets me started. But the point of all that was thanks a lot. I have to say that when I visited MCC in March, I wasn't prepared for what I experienced. As was mentioned, I have a long history with international higher education, and I have to say my visit to Madras Christian College was absolutely transformative. It was a singular experience that changed me, and changed me for the better. It was just fantastic. So thank you for inviting me. What an honor, what a privilege. Just a little background, and I think, I'm basically going to talk about hermeneutics and prompt engineering. I guess for most people attending this conference, the words I'll say about hermeneutics are probably pretty familiar. But I'm going to say them anyway, because I'm going to try to show how long-standing principles of hermeneutics may be valuable when it comes comes to prompt engineering. My first visit to India was in 1993, half my life ago. You know, I hadn't touched email. I didn't know about the internet. Most people didn't, actually. Some specialists did, but you know, email, the internet kind of took off in '95 or 1996. And I remember I wanted to call my parents from India because that also was such an eye-opening experience. But I think I had to go to the post office. I don't remember, but I had to schedule a phone call for the next day, and then you know, I went and had to wait until you would call to make that phone call. So that you know, that I'm here today, via Zoom, you know, using PowerPoint, which are pretty common tools these days. But the fact that that much has happened, you know, in my lifetime, is just amazing. You know, from you know, making an appointment to make a phone call the next day and waiting for your turn, for my turn, to discussing hermeneutics and artificial intelligence and prompt engineering. I never would have guessed it. So, as a preface to my talk, and I think probably many of us share this experience, at the University of Akron, one of the courses I teach is called Technology and Human Values. It's not quite an ethics course. It involves ethics, but it involves technology and culture, well, obviously, and many things like that. And for me, anyway, you know, I became more concretely aware of artificial intelligence, you know, fall semester in 2023. And at that point, you know, I was discussing it in the class, but it wasn't a thing. By that next semester, and I guess many of us were, I was getting, you know, brilliantly written papers from the students. And at that point in time, you know, I don't think anybody was thinking about plagiarism or not too much. Everything happened so fast that, you know, for spring semester for me in 2024 was just, it was a time of what's happening here. And, you know, I think for, you know, since 2023 to where we are today, and I think it's hard to grasp what has happened and what is happening. Even with preparing my presentation for today, you know, I feel behind. That you know, things seem to be rocketing so quickly that you know, it's hard to see what's happening because it's happening to such a great scale and happening so quickly. Even those of us who are you know, trying to stay on top of it and make sense of it, I'll speak for myself. It's really difficult with, you know, a new app coming out or you know, a new generative AI or whatever it is. So that's where I stand today. You know, I feel behind, but I'm going to make some remarks and hopefully well, I'll just so let me see. I hope you're seeing my PowerPoint, but that's good. So I got lucky on this one. I just made this with ChatGPT. I got lucky. This came out on my first prompt, and I thought, oh, that's pretty good. So I got So my topic is iterative interpretation and meaning making in generative AI, a hermeneutic approach to prompt engineering. 2 years ago, prompt engineering sounded like something really scary, certainly beyond something that I was capable of, and until I started digging into it. So I'm going to start just by referencing an article. I'm not going to go into depth on any of the points that I'll make in referring to this article, but I just wanted to make some points, and then I'll get into more of the meat of what I want to say. So I'm referring to an article by Cornelia Walters called AI Forces Leaders to Rediscover the Meaning, the Missing Hermeneutic Component. Let me try that again. AI Forces Leaders to Rediscover the Missing Humanistic Component. And this article offers a humanistic perspective on generative AI relative to my discussion of hermeneutics and prompt engineering. And this article makes a few points. I'm just going to mention them, and I'm not going to go into too much depth. The article, Walters highlights what she calls the optimization trap. And this is where businesses focus on measurable metrics like efficiency. And she argues that this focus on measurable metrics overshadows crucial humanistic qualities such as empathy, creativity, and meaning. And this mindset is maybe reflected in the cliche of if it can't be measured, it can't be managed. Okay, fine, maybe. But if we think about leadership, leadership is a qualitative activity, not a quantitative activity, I would argue. And it's quite different from management. Leadership is a different activity than management. That's a different topic for a different day that I wanted to mention. So I want to suggest that quality cannot be quantified. So then, moving towards prompt engineering, Walter describes generative AI as a mirror and a catalyst. And she argues that AI's cognitive advancements, and this is where it gets interesting, right? It compels humans to re-emphasize and rediscover uniquely human skills like empathy, ethical judgment, and contextual understanding. Now, for me, this is really surprising. I was kind of considered myself a Luddite or a neo-Luddite, and the idea that artificial intelligence, can kind of prompt us to rediscover our human qualities. This is something new. Walter posits something that she calls hybrid intelligence, which is kind of a symbiotic partnership that balances artificial intelligence's quantitative scale with humanistic qualitative depth. So then Walter advocates for a pro-social artificial intelligence, a systems that amplify human flourishing and well-being. And again, this takes us down a path I can't go into, but to me this echoes Heidegger's claim that Dasein is Mitsein. Being is being with others. I'll return to this a little later. But I think I'm behind on my PowerPoint here. Yeah. So Walter then talks about something that she calls the A-frame human capacity and artificial intelligence capacity, appreciation of both, and acceptance of both. And again, as the neo-Luddite, this is a big shift in the way I look at the world. And accountability, which is thinking about the ethics of all of this. Walter then talks about double literacy, and that is an understanding of both what it means to be literate as a human being, but then also to think about how can we understand algorithms to be literate. So the goal here for Walter is to integrate human judgment with artificial intelligence. And the bottom line here is that the argument goes, artificial intelligence can amplify human qualities and shape human being, or even shape the pursuit of existential authenticity. All right, that's just kind of the background. Now I'll get into to what I kind of want to say. Let's see where we are on the PowerPoint. So I'm going to talk about hermeneutics in the age of intelligent machines. So I'm going to read a little bit. So hermeneutics, the art of interpretation, has long served as a cornerstone of rigorous intellectual inquiry, shaping our engagement with text, traditions, and cultural paradigms. Originating in ancient philosophical and theological traditions, it has evolved into a broader epistemological framework, influencing fields of philosophy, the history of the law, and social science. But today, we stand at a critical junction where these enduring hermeneutic principles must engage with the accelerating forces of technological innovation. Specifically, the rise of artificial intelligence, capable of generating text and influence interpretation through algorithmic logic, and seemingly other mysterious things unknown even to AI experts. And I think this is just fascinating that the experts in artificial intelligence aren't quite sure how it works. And this situation that we're in compels us to approach, to reconsider traditional approaches to meaning. So, for scholars, for those of us in academics, right, it may be fruitful to consider generative AI itself as a kind of interpretive engine, one capable of reading patterns, discerning structure, and articulating new content from learned models. And by thinking creatively. I'm sure all of us have played with ChatGPT and played with Gemini and Grok and everything else is out there. And, as I said, I feel like I'm behind. And, things that appear to be creative answers, being asked questions without asking or prompting AI to ask me questions, and good questions, and deep questions. I don't know. It's amazing. And I wonder if it's more than just technological wisdom. I don't know. So let me see. So I'm not going to go into the differences between artificial intelligence and generative AI and large language brochure aptly queries, how do we bridge the insights of the past with the complexities of the present? Information technology has seemingly become synonymous with the modern society's view of modernization and progress. Technology is perhaps the tellus of our age. It seems intuitive and maybe even superficial to mention that a world with information technology is vastly different from a world without it. I don't know how you all feel. For me, as an academic, as a teacher, as a thinker, 2025 is very different than even 2023. I think we're in the midst of something, and when you're in the midst of something that's grand, I think it's hard to see what's happening. Something's happening, but what it is, it's hard to see. In 50 years, it'll be in focus. Today, for me, it's not. But my question is this a matter of this difference between 23 and 25? Is this a matter of degree, quantity, faster, clearer, more efficient? Or is it a fundamental issue of quality? Fundamentally altering the nature of our existential engagement with the world. When I was at MCC in March, one of the things I talked about was Heidegger's typewriter, and one of the points was that typing versus word processing, or versus using generative AI. It not only changes how you write, or how you think, because those are intertwined, it changes what you think. And the example I think I mentioned then, and I still use a typewriter for entertainment. When you're typing on a typewriter, you're getting close to the end of the line, and you think, well, I might have to change the page, a piece of paper. You might think, what 7-letter word will fit at the end of this line? So in this evolving landscape, the rapid advancement of generative AI has brought the practice of prompt engineering to the forefront as a critical interface between human intention and machine output. This seemingly technological endeavor, characterized by its iterative nature of crafting and defining prompts, reveals deeper connections to the philosophical field of hermeneutics, the theory of interpretation. So I teach at the University of Akron in Ohio, and as one of the things we can do as faculty members is we have access to online learning platform called Coursera, and I've just been devouring all the different courses that are available to us on prompt engineering. It's just fascinating. So today my talk posits that the best human AI interaction is inherently interpretive and co-constructive. Moreover, applying philosophical, hermeneutic, interpretive methodology to generative AI prompt engineering may help overcome current limitations in generative AI responses. And I say that with qualification because when it comes to text generation, I've found that generative AI, that ChatGPT and Gemini are mind-boggling. Simultaneously, such an approach can illuminate deeper philosophical questions about meaning-making and the evolving hermeneutic relationship between humans and intelligent machines. To explore this complex interplay, I will examine the parallels between the hermeneutic circle. You see where I'm on my PowerPoint. Probably off topic here. Oops. No, that's okay. To explore this complex interplay, I will examine the parallels between the hermeneutic circle and the iterative nature of prompt familiar with it, but just so we're on the same page, I'm going to do it. I was trying to watch the introductory remark on YouTube, and I heard the principal talking about science. I think it was trying to do a lot of things. As a phenomenologist, I would argue that phenomenology is a science, and an evidence-based science. Hermeneutics at its core is a discipline devoted to the art and perhaps the science. Sorry, I got something here. Let me just check it. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I might have got a message here. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I got too many buttons to press here. Oh, it's all right. When I say that, I'm saying, phenomenology or hermeneutics is a Wissenschaft or a Geisteswissenschaft in that sense of science. A science of interpretation, particularly as it relates to text, language, and the construction of meaning. Text, of course, can be understood to be the written word, history, the works of art, and even our existential quest. As we all know, key figures in the hermeneutic tradition include Heidegger, Gadamer, and the American doc, Eden. They have revolutionized hermeneutics by asserting that interpretation is not a passive reception of meaning, but an active engagement, deeply intertwined with tradition and interprets pre-existing frameworks. So I think I might, let me see where we're at here. Okay. So the historical trajectory of modern hermeneutics reveals a series of pivotal moments. Of course, Schleiermacher in the late 18th and early 19th centuries emphasized reconstructing an author's intention. The Dilthey distinguished the interpretive methods of human science, Geisteswissenschaften, from the explanatory nature of the natural sciences, Naturwissenschaften. Positioning hermeneutics as foundational to our understanding of history and culture. Piper then introduced a radical shift, moving hermeneutics from textual interpretation to the structure of human existence. Famously arguing that interpretation is intrinsic to Dasein, our being there, being in the world. Following Heidegger's lead, Gadamer, Heidegger's student, further developed philosophical hermeneutics, highlighting the crucial role of historical context, the weight of tradition, the dynamic fusion of horizons that occurs between the interpreter and the interpretive. And then Don Ide developed post-phenomenology as extended hermeneutics to technology. So we're probably all familiar with the hermeneutic circle, but for anyone who isn't, I'm just going to say a few words. The central concept of hermeneutics is the hermeneutic circle. It describes the recursive process of understanding, whether directed at a text or any form of meaning, including human existential existence, by moving iteratively between its constituent parts and the encompassing whole. The understanding of, and I'm going to get the prompt in here, but the understanding of individual elements is formed by grasping the entirety, while the comprehension of the whole is built upon interpreting its parts. This dynamic underscores that understanding something is not a static endpoint, but an ongoing evolution So prompt engineering as hermeneutic practice. Right? In the contemporary landscape, the principles of hermeneutics find compelling parallel in the burgeoning field of generative AI prompt engineering. Generative AI systems, particularly large language models, are built upon vast repositories of human expression, learning patterns which play out much as a close reader discerns motives across a literary corpus. So I'm going to talk about something that I don't understand that well, or I'm going to talk about it and raise it as an issue. So on the one hand, it seems that the large language models, work with an extremely huge data set. But it also seems that these models are going beyond the data set. Some of them, if I understand correctly, Gemini, also scours the web. And I wonder if some of these models are approaching something that might be called creative thinking. My ideas on this are not well formed. These are thoughts that I'm thinking. So just as a scholar interprets a text by synthesizing past readings and cultural context, generative AI systems draw upon learned history to produce coherent responses. AI's understanding is arguably not conscious, at least not yet, maybe. But it is structurally and functionally interpretive. This technology can be seen as an interpretive engine capable of reading patterns and articulating new content based on training. But I ask, isn't this what humans do? Don't humans read patterns and articulate new content based on training? Prompt engineering therefore involves skillful crafting of inputs. Prompts designed to guide large language models toward desired outputs. It requires careful attention to wording, structure, and contextual cues to optimize AI responses, often employing techniques such as single-shot prompting, few-shot prompting, role-based instructions, persona creation, and iterative refinement. These are all prompting techniques. Generative AI models like ChatGPT and Google Gemini demonstrate a surprising ability to grasp nuances of tone and genre, making the crafting of effective prompts a subtle exercise in guiding generative AI's interpretation of the desired output. Furthermore, multimodal models like Google's Gemini suggest that the interpretive relationship between humans and artificial intelligence extends beyond textual prompts and responses, encompassing images, sounds, and other forms of media. I don't know if any of you have been watching some of the really good videos generated by Gemini VE03. It's hard to grasp. Given that current generative AI models arguably lack genuine conscious understanding, at least in the human sense, prompt engineering serves as a crucial means of shaping generative AI outputs and enhancing the accuracy, creativity, and relevance of these outputs, from text generation to interpretation to image creation and code development. Viewed for a hermeneutic lens, prompt engineering emerges as an interpretive endeavor, meaning is actively shaped through the interaction between the user, the prompt engineer, generative AI, the response to text generation, and the prompt, instructions given to or question asks of generative AI. In this way, the dynamic interplay between the specific elements of a prompt and the holistic AI-generated response mirrors the hermeneutic circle. Effective prompt engineering often necessitates iterative refinement, where adjustments to the input prompts are made best based on generative AI's previous outputs, guiding its interpretation of the task at hand. It's amazing to have a long-form conversation with generative AI, because it remembers everything we talk about, as we know. Just as hermeneutic thinkers emphasize the influence of context and preconceptions on human interpretation, generative AI responses are conditioned by their training data, inherent modal biases, and the specific framing of the prompt. This highlights prompt engineering as an ongoing dialogue rather than a fixed, purely technical process, or so it seems to me. Let's see what we're doing. Let me jump to, I think we're probably familiar with Gadamer. I'm going to skip to Don Ede and his post-phenomenology of technology. Get my papers right. So building on Gadamer's foundational work, Don Ede, for example, has been particularly instrumental in extending hermeneutics into the domain of technology. As a key figure in post-phenomenology, Ede argues that technological artifacts actively mediate human experience, shaping our perception and interpretation in ways that are analogous to traditional hermeneutic processes. Indeed, Ede's phenomenology investigates the conditions of what makes things appear as what we take them to be, suggesting a profound co-constitutive relationship between us and the phenomena we encounter. For example, Ede's framework delineates distinct human-technology relations where technology functions as an interpretive interface. Think of MRI scans, eyeglasses, telescopes, or presents itself as an independent of AI assistants, ATMs, robots, and today, maybe even artificial intelligence, romantic partners. Ede's analysis challenges the assumption that technology offers a neutral or purely objective representation of the world. Mirroring classical hermeneutics, the understanding that all textual interpretation is mediated and shaped by pre-existing frameworks, Ede argues that all technological perception is similarly conditioned. This insight is particularly critical in an era of increasingly dominated by generative AI, virtual reality, digital media, and digital marketing, where human understanding is ever more filtered through technological systems. When users take out a tool or artifact, whether it's a chisel in stone, a typewriter in paper, a word processor in software, or generative AI, it profoundly impacts the way the user does things. For example, a writer using a word processor would tend to have a fundamentally different writing practice and produce different content than using pen and paper, illustrating how technology transforms our practices and the nature of our engagement and what we create. Ede's post-phenomenology further recognizes that users do not interact with AI in a vacuum, but within a broader socio-technical context. The inherent biases within AI models, the data they are trained on, and the prompts they receive all exert influence instruction mean? One might today also ask if LLMs are learning on their own, which seems to be the case. So large language models acting as a kind of interpretive ground built from vast amounts of data respond to prompts by drawing upon and reconfiguring the patterns they have learned. This process is neither neutral nor deterministic. Rather, it echoes the hermeneutic circle, where understanding is iterative and shaped by prior knowledge, context, and the evolving interaction between the user and the system. The historical focus of the discipline of hermeneutics has been on text, yet, as Keynote suggests, the fundamental principles of philosophical hermeneutics extend to any form of mediated experience. In increasingly prevalent digital environments, the challenges inherent in hermeneutics become even more pronounced. AI-driven platforms, search engines, and recommendation algorithms introduce new and complex layers of mediation, fundamentally conditioning how individuals access and process information. All right, I've cut up my PowerPoint now. So I'm now going to just talk a moment or two about informing generative AI prompts, insights from Socratic dialogue. Focusing on these insights, you can also draw valuable parallels from the Socratic method to further illuminate effective human-AI interaction in generative AI language models. Just as hermeneutics emphasizes the interpretive nature of understanding, Socrates' approach to inquiry characterized by structured exchange of questions and answers, aimed to stimulate critical thinking and uncover underlying assumptions. This rigorous method, though ancient, resonates profoundly with the dynamic process of meaning-making and interpretation in contemporary prompt engineering. Socrates might be seen as the original hermeneutician. Hold on here. Give me a second, I might have skipped a page. Okay. So Socrates can perhaps, I already said this, but Socrates can perhaps be seen as the original hermeneutician due to his emphasis on understanding, interpretation, and self-interpretation. His relentless questioning revealed contradictions in belief, acting as an uncovering of conceptual frameworks. Furthermore, his dictum, known by self as a powerful call to self-interpretation, acknowledging one's own biases and limits, a form of hermeneutic reflection. The iterative nature of Socratic dialogue, where understanding evolves through refinement, offers compelling insights for effective prompt engineering. Much like Socrates guided his conversation partners through probing questions, prompt engineers meticulously craft prompts to direct AI models, aiming for specific responses and deeper understanding. The Socratic methods focus on clarifying meaning through dialogue, strongly aligns with certain hermeneutic principles, viewing understanding as a dynamic, context-shaped process. That is, exploratory thinking, facilitated by Socratic techniques, can guide generative AI towards imaginative and creative outputs, transforming LLMs into powerful sources of inspiration. So here we are, we have generative AI functioning as a source of inspiration for humans. So I have suggested that the practice of prompt engineering, let's see where I am on my PowerPoint. Well, yeah, I think I'm lined up now. I've suggested that the practice of prompt engineering, wherein users refine their inputs to guide generative AI responses, mirrors the hermeneutic process. Just as the hermeneutic circle describes the emergence of meaning through a dynamic, evolving, and iterative interplay between parts and whole, prompt engineering involves a similar iterative process of adjusting the language and structure of prompts to shape the AI's interpretation. Right? So I'm saying that AI interprets our prompts. This is not merely a mechanical procedure, but an inherently qualitative, interpretive, and even creative. So, using the Socratic method, users engage in a form of dialogue with generative AI, continuously prompting its responses based on contextualized understanding and goals. While current generative AI systems arguably lack human understanding, their responses are nevertheless conditioned by the vast data sets they are trained on, the inherent biases within the models, and the specific framing of the prompts that they receive. This intricate interplay brings prompt engineering an act of co-construction of AI, where meaning is not simply retrieved, but is continuously negotiated, right? We negotiate meaning with generative AI, and meaning is shaped through the interaction between human and machine, a process strikingly similar to the interpretive acts described by Gadamer and extended to the technological realm by EMERY. So I'm getting close to wrapping up. By situating prompt engineering within the framework of philosophical hermeneutics, we move beyond a purely technical understanding of the practice of prompt engineering. Instead, prompting emerges as a digital age philosophical engagement informed by fundamental processes of meaning-making, vision, negotiation, and interpretation. The convergence of philosophical hermeneutics, technology, and artificial intelligence underscores the fundamentally interpretive nature of human experience, whether that experience is mediated traditional text, Socratic dialogue, sophisticated machines, existential phenomenology, or complex generative AI algorithms. Gadamer's foundational insights into the role of tradition and the dynamic process of understanding, coupled with Ine's post-phenomenological analysis of technological mediation, provide a powerful and relevant framework for critically examining the pervasive role of artificial intelligence in contemporary society. The practice of prompt engineering, understood as a hermeneutic dialogical endeavor, highlights the continuously evolving nature of interpretation itself in an increasingly digitized world. To summarize what I said, or to try to summarize, viewing generative AI prompt engineering through the lens of philosophical hermeneutics offers profound insights for both fields. It eliminates prompt engineering as an inherently interpretive endeavor akin to our engagement with texts and traditions, while simultaneously raising critical philosophical questions about meaning, mediation, and the evolving relationship between humans and intelligent machines. The journey from ancient Socratic inquiry to modern prompt engineering underscores the timeless pursuit of understanding through iterative dialogue. As we continue to navigate the age of intelligent machines, embracing this hermeneutic perspective will be crucial for fostering more nuanced and effective interactions with generative artificial intelligence. All right, I think that's it.
during your late night hours just to be part of this event. So we are truly and sincerely grateful to you, Dr. Emery. Thank you for joining
I'm
us.
sorry, I'm kind of toggling between Zoom and YouTube, so I'm not quite sure what happens now.
Dr. Britt, you can stay connected with us live. We are going to conclude the inaugural.
Speaking of maybe giving presentations, let me start with very remarks. It has been my joy to be with you today at the Crossroads College 2 years earning these and renewing visions and patience. At the outset, I extend my sincere thanks to the Crossroads College for the kind invitation at our altar. I am deeply grateful to Dr. Franklin, Associate Professor and Chair of English.
Let's get moving. To bring this inaugural gathering to a close with gratitude, I now invite Professor C. Monson Daniel, President of the English Literary Forum, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Tireless coordination and unwavering commitment to fostering dialogue across disciplines, traditions, and generations.
At the outset, we thank Almighty God for the abundant blessings upon us with enabling this remarkable event. I thank the keynote speaker for the international conference, Dr. Emery, Senior Lecturer from the University of AKRON, Ohio. Dr. Greg's lecture, to say the least, we've seen how we've understood existence through the interface between the thinking human being and generative AI. We look into philosophical, hermeneutic, interpretive AI and how it works through in our lives. The ongoing process of interpretation that has occurred from Socratic dialogues and from now on involving AI in the process and facing challenges of the present day through this interface between generative AI and human beings. Next, I thank our beloved guest of honor for the occasion, Dr. Veerala, whose greetings for the event was in itself a welcome of radical knowledge. I thank our principal, Dr. P. Wilson, for his undying and formidable motivation and support. It was as if we had 3 keynote lectures on the same topic in the same program. So I really have to thank him. I primarily thank our visionary captain of the ship, Dr. Franklin Daniel, for envisioning this day and executing it with dexterity, precision, and dedication. Thank you so much, sir. I also thank my dear professors and colleagues for being supportive in every step of the way. My biggest thanks goes to our very valuable PhD research scholars, the backbone of this program without which we have not seen this day coming forth. They have been at it for months literally, and now we are seeing the benefits of that in the program that we see here today. I thank the delegates from other institutions who have come to visit us for this program, and we look forward to the sharing of the knowledge that they have to offer in the technical sessions to follow. And finally, I thank our beloved student community, without whom we would not find our existence. Thank you.
Just a change, I request Dr. Sanjay, faculty member of the department, to offer the closing prayer.
Let's all stand our feet for the prayer.
Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful two-day international conference. Thank you so much for your presence and guidance throughout the planning and in this inaugural. Thank you so much for the guests, Dr. Greg, and also all of our professors who were involved in planning. Thank you so much for Dr. Raju sir for his insightful thoughts. We pray that you will continue to be with us the next 2 days. We pray that the Holy Spirit will lead us and guide us. I pray that your blessing will be upon each and every presenters and the participants. We pray that you will give us strength, wisdom, and knowledge so that this conference will be useful to us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. We have a couple of announcements to be made from our end. The first one is that as we have closed the ceremony, I would like to take a moment to highlight a significant artistic offering that awaits you all shortly. I request everyone to make a special remembrance of this announcement that I'm going to make. At 12:45 p.m. in the Celio Hall Indoor Theatre, the theatre wing of the Department of English, Madras Christian College, will present AKRON The Court, and so at 12:45 p.m., that is after the first phase of the technical sessions or the presentations that will take place parallelly in various venues, I request all the students of the department and the delegates to join us at Celio Hall Indoor Theatre at 12:45 p.m. And we will break for morning tea right after these announcements. And I request all the delegates and the participants, the staff members, to proceed to the refreshment zone, which is located to my right, which means to your left, to get the refreshments. Also, we will reconvene at 11:15 a.m. and we will begin the parallel technical sessions, which will run till 12:45 p.m. So, session A1 will be held here in Addison Hall and it will be streamed live for our online delegates. Session A2 in the afternoon will also be taking place here in the Addison Hall and will also be streamed live for the online delegates. At 12:45 p.m., as I have mentioned earlier, please gather at the Celio Hall Indoor Theatre stage to witness the play by the theatre group of the Department of English. And at 1:15 p.m., we will break for lunch, and I request all the delegates and staff members to proceed to the staff different room. There's a change in the menu. Earlier it was the ICOH dining area.